The great Steven Portnoy standing by from ABC News. The country could be out of money again in about a week or so.
Yep.
And as he would guess, after Election Day the other day, the House got right back to the important work. Oh, wait, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
It's more investigating. Steven, do they have time for this now?
Do they have time for this? They will tell you that it's important to get into all of the evidence that they want to have unearthed. And look, what we're talking about is that subpoenas have now been issued by the House Oversight Committee to Hunter Biden and James Biden and a business associate of Hunter and James Biden. And interview requests have gone out to the president's sister-in-law, his daughter-in-law, a number of other people who are close to or have been close to Hunter and James Biden. And the House Oversight Committee chair says that it's necessary to dig into the evidence of that they say shows how Joe Biden benefited from his family's business dealings. They have not yet demonstrated that they haven't proved it, but they've insinuated it. And the White House says that the Republicans are trying to distract from their repeated failures to govern. Now, Hunter Biden's lawyer came out with a statement yesterday saying his client is eager to discuss his business dealings with the committee in a public forum and at the right time. The subpoena that has been issued to Hunter Biden calls for him to appear for a deposition here in Washington on December 13th.
That answers one of my follow-up questions, which is, will they show up for these subpoenas? Because as you well remember, and I think most people do, many Republicans, when subpoenaed, just blew them off for the January 6th committee. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you read carefully into what Abby Lowell, the attorney for Hunter Biden, is saying, is that Hunter Biden looks forward to discussing this in a public forum and at the right time. So a deposition on December 13th is neither public nor necessarily the right time to Hunter Biden. So we'll see.
And the difference between a congressional investigation and a criminal investigation, just for explaining purposes?
Well, I mean, look, a criminal investigation is, you have an understanding that it's part of the judicial process, that you can be, held to account by a judge if you don't appear. You can be ultimately, if it's a criminal case, it's your freedom and liberty that's at stake. A congressional inquiry is similarly serious in the sense that, you have to comply with a subpoena. If you don't, that can be enforced in court. But the idea that Congress is going to somehow take away your liberties is not at stake. That said, this is ultimately toward the goal of potentially impeaching Joe Biden as president. And so the stakes are very high politically, but also legally. And so we'll see how this all plays out. But look, this is about the idea that Hunter Biden and James Biden, the president's brother, ran a business, and there have been, in recent weeks, releases from the committee of, for example, canceled checks and other things that they say that they've dug into the bank records, and they've found things that they have questions about, like a $200,000 check that reimburses the president or repays a loan. Well, they want to know more about the loan, right? Because the timing of it all is, in their mind, suspicious or suspect, and it comes the payments to Joe Biden came at a time when there were some overseas business dealings that Hunter and James Biden had. So the question is there any kind of a direct link between the business of the president's brother and son and the president himself, or any decisions undertaken by then Vice President Joe Biden? And it's difficult so far for the committee to prove it. I mean, again, there's a lot of insinuation here, a lot of intimation, and a lot of smoke. And the subpoenas now take it to a new level where these men, Hunter and James Biden, are going to have to appear compelled legally by the committee. The interview requests to others have gone out. That's a bit softer than a subpoena. But the bottom line is the committee says it has questions, it wants answers, and it's all happening. You're absolutely right to say it. A week and a day before government funding runs out, with no plan
Right.
to avoid a government shutdown a week from tomorrow.
That was exactly my next question to you, Stephen, getting down to the business of actually we the people. Neither the House nor Senate have settled on any sort of a path forward, but Mike Johnson, the new speaker yesterday, said, we are considering an array of GOP ideas. Any ideas what these ideas might be?
What it seems to be focused on is this idea of no one has ever heard of it in Washington before, but it's called a laddered CR, continuing resolution, which is to say it's a two-step continuing resolution, a short-term stopgap for certain agencies that would run through mid-December, just a few weeks, and then another stopgap that would last for the other agencies through mid-January. Well, that's a fine idea. No one's ever done it before. But the Senate Democrats say they're not particularly interested in that two-step process. Why should they be? And so there's no agreement. Without an agreement, there's also the fear that Democrats have that Republicans will try to extract some concessions to extending government funding for just a few more weeks, cuts that they will find unacceptable. They're pointing back to the agreement that was struck by then-Speaker McCarthy and approved by the House and Senate to avoid the debt ceiling crisis. And so they say that the spending levels have already been agreed to, and Republicans are trying to renege on that agreement. And the point is, we are now 8 days away from the shutdown deadline, and there needs to be bipartisan agreement between the leaders in the House and the Senate, and ultimately by the President of the White House, to avoid a government shutdown. And there simply isn't any kind of framework for that. There are not discussions that would lead to that framework, and time really is running out. I mean, it's particularly the way things work in the Senate. The House has the 72-hour rule. It's expected now that the Speaker could post his bill, this laddered CR, this two-step process, on Saturday for a vote on Tuesday. If it passes the House on Tuesday, and let's just say it does, then it goes over to the Senate, where they have a number of procedural hurdles that could be laid down, which would take time to overcome. And the Senate ultimately is going to reject this laddered CR approach on principle, never mind what the substance of the actual language might be. Again, Democrats fear that Republicans will want to have cuts in there that they won't accept. And so, again, time really is short. Is there time to avoid a government shutdown like we saw at the end of September? Yes, there is time, but it's not much time.
Yeah, and if we throw away the obvious questions here in the interest of time, and that being, we know the far right and the far left are going to vote for the far right and the far left. The vast middle, which no one can completely quantify how much of the vast middle exists, is tired of paying grocery prices where they are and have to run a budget in their own homes like grown-ups. They don't get to go, well, let's see if we can stretch it for another 3 or 4 weeks without popping more on the credit card and eventually going bankrupt. And they see the people that make the laws doing this. Is there anybody in the House that understands the political damage they're creating for themselves?
To the extent that they're focused on politics, they may be focused on the politics of their own arguments and how those arguments are responded to by people back home, which is the idea that the debt's too high, someone's got to do something, and this is the moment to do it, and that's why we sent you to go. But overall, when you step back and you realize that, again, you need agreement, that you need compromise, there's a lack of seriousness that has sort of, fallen over all of this, and it has impacted the inability for the House and Senate to get what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is a full fiscal year appropriation for each of the agencies. The House has been working toward that in ways that the Senate can't accept, and the Senate is not going to take up any of these bills that include cuts because, again, it violates that underlying agreement that was already reached. So, again, the leaders need to get serious. They're not quite there yet, and because of political pressure, they are saying that they're serious about things other than achieving a compromise.
Because they say the stuff that used to be said behind closed doors out loud now. Yeah. They're more interested in keeping the job than doing the job. Stephen, great work as always. Thank you. And Stephen Portnoy, ABC News. Please try not to have your head explode as you do your job.
You bet.
All right, take care.
Good luck. Thanks, Stephen.
The great journalist.
Oh, it's the best.
Hardcore reporting.
I've seen this before, but again, it just always is baffling to me how here we are again. Here we are again every year. And for everyone listening to the show right now, regardless of your political stance, they think you're this stupid. Right. The Democrats and the Republicans.